Peace, Israel, and Yah bless. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. The title of today's lesson is, Can Two Walk Together? Once again, today's lesson is entitled, Can Two Walk Together? Brace yourselves, tighten up your jaws, don't turn to the left or to the right, or you will get hit in the mouth. So today we will certainly discuss, can two people who have opposite faith, opposite goals, can they walk together? Now, let's first start off in the book of Amos. In the book of Amos, we will deal with Amos chapter 3 and we will read verse 3. Amos chapter 3, verse 3. And verse 3 reads, Can two walk together except they be agreed? Question mark. So the question is, can two people who are going in two opposite directions, can they walk together? And the answer to that is simply no. And this is specifically speaking to Israel and their relationship with the Most High. When Israel chose wickedness, the Most High is righteous. He is holy. He said that we are a holy people. And we are to be holy because he is holy. So if we chose wickedness and if we chose unrighteousness, certainly we cannot walk with him and he cannot with us. For the simple fact we're going in two opposite directions. So two cannot walk together unless they are agreed. Okay, there must be some commonality there. All right, now let's go straight to Genesis, and we will go to Genesis chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3. And we will read verse 1 through 13. Genesis chapter 3. And we will read verse 1 through verse 13. Now the serpent was more supple than any beast of the field which Yah the strong one had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, has Yah said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? Verse 2. And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Yah hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. Verse 4. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. Verse 5. For Yah doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, lowercase, knowing good and evil. Verse 6. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. Verse 7. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves aprons. Verse 8. And they heard the voice of Yah walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yah among the trees of the garden. And Yah called unto Adam and said unto him, Where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, this is the Most High speaking, Who told thee that thou wast naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? Verse 12. And the man said, The woman thou gavest to me, or gavest to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. Verse 13. And Yah said unto the woman, What is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, The serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. All right. Let's cover those 13 verses there. Number 1, the Most High gave a commandment specifically to Adam and his wife that they should not eat of that tree. Now, or the fruit of that tree. The serpent, a man, spoke to the woman and convinced her otherwise. So she purposely went against instruction. Okay, so the Most High gave one set of instructions, and the serpent, who is a man, came and gave her counsel that was contrary to the Most High, and so she followed it. And in doing so, she committed a great sin. Now, Adam also committed a sin in eating of that fruit, because he knew he also had the commandment that that was forbidden. Now, once he was asked why did he do it, he did not take responsibility for his own actions. He tried to blame the woman. So no one is taking responsibility here. Now, what we are to take away from this is a man and a woman, when you have one of them that does not adhere to the Most High's law and his counsel, it causes problems in the household. A weak man in his house has a house of chaos, a house of no laws, a house of no rules, a house with no discipline. As you can see, as it pertains to Adam and his wife, she chose not to walk within the confines of the Most High's instruction. And thus, by her decision, Adam was corrupted by it. So do understand, once you're dealing with someone who is not going to adhere to the Most High's law, refuse to take the Most High's counsel, will not walk in the way that is right, that person can corrupt someone that is actually trying to stay on the path or that is on the path. Okay, so we are to be mindful with who we actually have our relationships with. For example, who we will marry and things of the sort, because you may find out that someone is not with this program, does not want to hear about the Most High, doesn't care to follow these laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts. And that becomes a problem, because once one is walking out of the way, it can corrupt those who are in the way. If your faith is not strong enough and you're not keeping these laws, statutes, and judgments, if you're not keeping them before your eyes as frontlets. Okay, now let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 7. Deuteronomy chapter 7. Deuteronomy chapter 7, we will read verse 3 and verse 4. In Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 3 reads, Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. Verse 4, For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods, idols. So will the anger of Yah be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly. Now, this is Moshe giving the instruction to the house of Israel that once we entered into the land of Canaan, that we were not to make any agreements with the inhabitants of that land. We were strictly instructed not to marry their daughters. We were not to take their daughters to our sons, okay, at all. Or we were not to give our daughters to their sons. We were not to marry them. Case in point being, these are different people with different ways. We were instructed before we came into the land that these people did all the things that the Most High hated. Okay, they were an abomination unto him. And that's why we were instructed to kill them. Okay? And to remove them out of the land. Now, and we were not to make any covenants with them, and we were not to marry them. A marriage is a covenant between a man and a woman, okay, of some sort. Okay, so we're instructed not to do that. And the specific reason for that was that these nations did not serve the Most High. Okay, they were into idolatry. Okay, so if we were to do this and our sons were to marry their daughters, then our sons will be leading the household astray, and they would be walking contrary to the Most High's instruction, simply by walking after the gods of these strange wives or these strange women. Okay, if you are familiar with the book of Ezra, we were strictly commanded to get rid of all the strange wives and the strange children that we had married. Case in point, this being the priest and the governors who were the chief in this trespass. So our leaders were the ones marrying the strange women and the strange wives, and thus we became corrupt. Okay, so we are to be careful with who we cohabit with when dealing with wives. Okay, dealing with women, dealing with husbands. Okay, as well as wives. You have to be careful who you marry, and ensure that they are on the same path as you are, or it will cause conflict within the household. Now, let's go to Genesis chapter 19. Go back to Genesis. Genesis chapter 19. And we'll go to verse 17. Genesis chapter 19 and verse 17. And verse 17 reads, "And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life. Look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed." So this is the angel grabbing a hold of Lot and his daughters, okay, and his wife, and telling him plainly, do not look back and to escape to the mountains, or they would be consumed, because the Most High was about to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, in that same chapter, let's move down to verse 26. Verse 26 of Genesis chapter 19. Verse 26 reads, "But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt." So, failure to follow instruction will lead to your own destruction. The angel had commanded and instructed Lot and his family, do not look back to escape to the mountain. His wife chose to walk contrary to that instruction. She was turned to a pillar of salt. So I would like you all to understand clearly that those whom you may be in love with, those whom you may be married to, if they're not walking in the way and you are, they won't be around anyhow. They will be destroyed. So there will be family members, mothers, fathers, grandparents, children, spouses. There are going to be those who will not care to hear this word. And since they don't care to hear it, they certainly will not do it. And it may pain you to see that and to hear that, but there's nothing that you can do to change their heart. That has to be something that they do. You cannot force it upon them. You can't persuade them to do it. But at the same time, you're not to suffer them to sin. In other words, if they're doing something that's incorrect, you are to correct them. They may not want to hear it, but that is your duty, to correct him and not suffer him to sin, okay? Or to suffer your brother to sin, or your wife. All right, so if you see something that's being done that's contrary to the Most High's law, you're to make mention of it, and that person can take it to heart or not. Okay, so Lot's wife chose to look back. Maybe she enjoyed the wickedness of Sodom and Gomorrah. So she looked back and she was destroyed. So this is to show clearly that there will be times when one spouse will not obey the Most High's instruction and will not care to hear it, that may be caught up in wickedness and be caught up in sin, caught up in iniquity. Meanwhile, the other spouse is trying to walk that straight and narrow path, and that becomes a conflict. Okay, But, nowadays, we're attracted to people by what or to others based on how they look, maybe their status, maybe their finances, etc. The new fine is going to be righteousness, because the person that's good looking or wealthy that's walking out of this path, anyone that's walking outside of this path is going to be killed. So you will have to make a decision on exactly which way you're going to go. And this is also part of that great separation and that great divide. There's going to be separation, and that separation will be between wickedness and righteousness. Okay, so keep those things in mind. So here we have a man's wife who chose not to follow instruction, and she was destroyed. Okay, let's go to Job. Job chapter 2. Job, and we're going to chapter 2. Job chapter 2 verse 9. Job chapter 2 verse 9 reads, Then said his wife unto him, Dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse Yah and die. Verse 10. But he said unto her, Thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of Yah? And shall we not receive evil? In all this did not Job sin with his lips. Now, what we have here is Job's wife telling him to curse the Most High and die. Once again, his spouse, you have Job, who is trying to do what he can to stay and walk in the way, and his wife is encouraging him, giving him counsel to curse the Most High and die. Job, being much wiser, he simply told her that she speaks as the foolish women do. Job clearly understands that it's the Most High that's breaking him off. It's the Most High that's causing his suffering. It is not Satan. Job clearly understands this, is that the Most High was sticking it to him. She may not have. Clearly, by her saying what she said here in verse 9, it is clear that she was not walking in the way of the Most High and his commandments. So this is the conflict of where, if two people are in a household and one is walking in the way and one is not, the evil person, and when I say evil, evil is and wicked is anyone that walks contrary to this law. If you're contrary to this law in any way, shape, or form, you are evil and you are wicked. Simple as that. So the wicked man or the wicked person can pull away and tug at the righteous. And that is why we were instructed to keep this law before our eyes as frontlets, to meditate on it day and night. Because in the midst of us, the righteous traps are being laid for the righteous by the wicked. Okay, and the Most High said that he had seen this thing and it displeased him. So the wicked is constantly trying to set traps and snares for the righteous. Okay, so be aware that the wicked is pulling at the righteous, trying to pull him away. Okay, and we are not to allow this thing to happen. That's why we're to meditate in this law day and night. And that wicked person may be your spouse. So you are to make a decision in exactly which way you will go. But if you're going in two separate directions, at some point, someone will have to let go. Someone will have to let go at some point, or you both will have to let go. But that decision of separation will have to be made if you're going in opposite directions. All right. Now let's jump to Psalms 37. Psalms chapter 37. Psalms chapter 37. And we will read verse 7. And verse 7 reads, Rest in Yah, and wait patiently for him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way, because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. So, you're going to see where the wicked prosper. You're going to see this at times. Do not fret yourselves with it, because the end of the wicked man is his destruction. He will be no more. So do not be caught up in looking at someone who's doing so well, and you're asking yourself, well, I'm trying to follow the law, and I'm struggling, and he is not following any law, and he seems to be living the high life, so to speak. All right? Be content. Be content with what you have, and be content in serving the Most High, walking after his laws. There is a reward for that. Okay, now, still in the same chapter, we will read verse 16 through verse 40 of the same chapter, so we have a clear understanding of what the end of the wicked shall be. And the wicked, once again, is those who will not adhere to the Most High's law, will not hear it, and will not do it. Okay, now verse 16 reads of Psalms 37th chapter. Verse 16 reads, A little that a righteous man has is better than the riches of many wicked. For the arms of the wicked shall be broken, but Yah upholdeth the righteous. The righteous are those who walk after his laws. Verse 18, And Yah knoweth the days of the upright, and their inheritance shall be forever. They shall not be ashamed in the evil time, and in the days of famine they shall be satisfied. But the wicked shall perish, and the enemies of Yah shall be as the fat of lambs. They shall consume into the smoke, shall they consume away. The wicked borroweth, and payeth not again, but the righteous showeth mercy and giveth. For such as be blessed of him shall inherit the earth, and they that be cursed of him shall be cut off. Verse 23, The steps of a good man are ordered by Yah, and he delighteth in his way. Though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for Yah upholdeth him with his hand. 25, I have been young, and now am old, yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging for bread. Now, let's understand these are the Psalms of David, from 1 to 72. Okay, so this is David and his Psalms. Verse 26, He is ever merciful, and lendeth, and his seed is blessed. Depart from evil, and do good, and dwell forevermore. For Yah loveth judgment, and forsaketh not his saints. They are preserved forever, but the seed of the wicked shall be cut off. The children, the offspring of the wicked shall be cut off. Verse 29, The righteous shall inherit the land, and dwell therein forever. When the third temple is built, and the sacrifice is put on, and the fountain for sin and uncleanness is for the house of Israel once we're gathered together, okay, we will dwell in that kingdom here on earth, okay, and that's only for the righteous. Verse 30, The mouth of the righteous speaketh wisdom, and his tongue talketh of judgment. The law of his God, or his strong one, is in his heart. None of his steps shall slide. The wicked watcheth the righteous, and seeketh to slay him. Once again, I had mentioned that the righteous have to be very mindful of the law, statutes, judgments, and precepts, and we're to keep it before our eyes like frontlets, because the wicked is forever trying to entrap us and ensnare us. Okay? Verse 33, Yah will not leave him in his hand, nor condemn him when he is judged. Wait on Yah, and keep his way, and he shall exalt thee to inherit the land. When the wicked are cut off, thou shalt see it. So those who are walking contrary to the law and can care less about it, those of us who are walking in the law, we will see them be cut off. And it might be your husband. It might be your wife. It might be your daughter. It may be your son. It may be your father or your mother. But you will see it. Verse 35, I have seen the wicked in great power, and spreading himself like a green bay tree. Yet he passed away, and lo, he was not. Yea, I sought him, but he could not be found, wicked being destroyed. Verse 39. Mark the perfect man, and behold the upright, for the end of that man is peace. Okay, the end of that man is peace. Verse 38. But the transgressors, evildoers, sinners, shall be destroyed together. The end of the wicked shall be cut off. Verse 39. But the salvation of the righteous is of Yah. He is their strength in the time of trouble. And Yah shall help them and deliver them. He shall deliver them from the wicked and save them because they trust in him. So with all the knowledge that we have gained and the understanding that we have gained it through, number one, turning to the law, statute, judgments, and precepts of the Most High. And with that, we are able to read these scriptures and we're able to bear witness to them. And since we're able to see it and reference it in this law, in this book, that strengthens our faith. But yet, it has to be proven to us. And so faith is required, and we have to put our trust in the Most High. However, that trust is strengthened because we can look in this book, look in our circumstances, look at the past, and look at what we're seeing right now with our own very eyes, and we can confirm and validate this word. Okay, so that makes trusting in the Most High a whole lot easier for those of us who are in this book and have gained an understanding of it and have borne witness to what we're able to see right now. Okay, that is Psalms chapter 37. Read the entire chapter for clarity so you understand clearly that the end of the wicked or the wicked person is his destruction. So to cleave onto them would bring about your own destruction. There is that time when we are to let go and we're to make a decision on exactly which way we will walk. Okay. Now, let's go to Leviticus chapter 26. Leviticus chapter 26. Leviticus 26. Leviticus chapter 26, and we will read verse 21. Leviticus chapter 26, verse 21. And if ye walk contrary unto me, and will not hearken unto me, I will bring 7 times more plagues upon you according to your sins. Now let's jump down to verse 23 and verse 24. Verse 23 reads, And if ye will not be reformed by me by these things, but will walk contrary unto me, then will I also walk contrary unto you, and will punish you yet 7 times for your sins. So the Most High is making plain to the house of Israel, if you walk contrary towards my instruction, I'm going to punish you. Now, after I have given you these punishments, if you yet refuse to return back unto my law and will not be reformed after I've simply beaten you down, then what I will do is I will punish you 7 times more. But to walk contrary to the Most High's law and his word, the result is punishment, if not utter destruction. So there is no such thing as you walking contrary and it goes unpunished. It doesn't happen. So if anyone is walking contrary to the Most High's law, there's a punishment for it. Okay? So I want you to keep those things in mind. Now, let's go to the very last verse and chapter of this lesson. Isaiah chapter 4. Isaiah chapter 4. All right, Isaiah chapter 4, and we will read verse 1. And verse 1 reads of Isaiah chapter 4. And in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. Now, the reason why I read that is because men will be few in the earth. Men have the biggest egos. Men will not humble themselves to come before the Most High. Men will not admit, hey, I have been wrong. There are many of the house of Israel right now that are teaching all manner of idolatry on the streets. This word is very plain. There's no mysteries to it. They're teaching of some Savior that we have never heard of. So the men will not humble themselves. They will be destroyed. So a man will be few and far in between. Now, 7 women will take a hold of one man, which means these women would want to be called by the name of that man, meaning they will be his wife. Okay? Because the women will have to suffer reproach. So the men of Israel, the majority of them will not reform themselves to this word because of their pride. So understand that in the days of old, it was never instructed in the Most High's law that one man had to have one wife. That was never the instruction given to the Most High. A man had several wives. What you had to do was to ensure that the first wife, the second wife, the third wife, etc., that you give a gift to one of them, an equal gift had to be given to the other. You had to equally take care of your wives. You were not to give preference of one over the other. So in the latter days, and all of this is going to be returned to where 7 women will take a hold of one man. So the one woman, one wife doctrine, you cannot find that anywhere out of the mouth of any prophet. So to our women, if your man, your husband, is not about this law, could care less about it, you have a decision to make. And that decision requires faith. Okay, so you determine exactly when you're dealing with someone, whether it be a spouse, it may be your father, your mother, your children. The decision is theirs to make whether they will walk after the Most High's law or not. What you cannot do, you cannot save them. Okay, the Most High made plain that Job and everyone else, though they were in it, they could not save sons or daughters. They could only save their own soul. So it's up to each and every one of us to save ourselves. And we do that simply by returning to the law. You're unable to save them. So they have to make that decision on which way they will walk, and so will you. So when dealing with a spouse or with a loved one who does not care to hear the laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts of the Most High, you can pray for them. That may be the best thing that you can do, but it is ultimately their decision on whether they will walk after the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts. What you are not to do, you are not to let your emotions get in the way, that you care so much about this person that you're willing to take the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts and chuck it behind your back in order to be with this person. Because if they are in unrighteousness and you are doing that which is righteous and that which is right in the sight of the Most High, should you depart out of the way, all your righteousness that you have done is now void. Okay, so do understand that. So do not be pulled out of the way by the unrighteous, because you will be in the same boat with them, and their end is destruction. So I hope that brings some clarity to anyone who is dealing with a spouse, a child, a parent, or a loved one that is walking out of the way, and it pains you to see it and to hear it and to know there's absolutely nothing that you can do about it. What you are to do is correct that person. That is your job when they're walking out of the way. And I can simply suggest that you pray for them, but the decision is theirs to make. So two cannot walk together unless they be agreed. Keep that in mind. That concludes this lesson. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. If you're walking in the way, continue to do so. Do not allow anyone that is not following these laws to pull you out of the way and cause you to be destroyed. Peace, Israel, and Yah bless.